Hello everyone and welcome back to the Noob Cube breakdown. Today we're going to be looking at green. I also want to let you guys know that by the time you're watching this video, there's actually already been a lot of changes to the cube. And if you want to check out the most updated version of the cube, check out the link in the description to Cubetutor. That's where I update it. And feel free to draft it. Let me know what you think. And if you have any suggestions about greens in particular for the Noob Cube, leave it in the comments of this video. So let's get to it. Let's look at the one drops. One drops are my favorite in cube. I love them. I love one drops. We're starting with Sylvan Safekeeper. It's 1/1 for a green, and it lets you sacrifice a land and target creature you control can't be the target of spells or abilities this turn. So it gives your guy Shroud every time you sack a land. The reason why I like it is because it doesn't require a mana activation. You could be completely tapped out and still protect your team. Sylvan Safekeeper is quite good. It's also an invitational card. I think it was Ollie Rad. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if I was wrong or right about that. Let's take a look at the mana guys next. This is the best one by far. Draga Tree Speaker. It's the closest thing to Sol Ring in this cube. Is 1 green, 1/1, but then you can level them up and then tap it to add 2 green to your mana pool. So basically you play them on turn 1, turn 2 requires no investment because you're getting the 2 green that you're paying, that you're putting into them immediately, and you can use that for whatever you want. And then every turn after that, this guy is just tapped for 2 green. You level him up, he does some other things, but generally he doesn't. Generally he's just level him up once, he's a Sol Ring. We also have an Arbor Elf. This one was altered by RK Post, who's a fantastic artist, really great guy. If you end up meeting him at a GP or something, definitely go up to him, say hello, maybe get an altar. This one was $2, so great deals. It's 1 green, and it's 1/1, tap it to untap a forest. We also have Elvish Mystic, classic, or I guess the new classic, modern classic. 1 green, 1/1, tap to add a green. The exact same thing is right here. This is the first time it was done, Lanor Elves. And then the last mana guy, a guy that probably a lot of you don't know about, is Tinderwall. It's 1 green, 0/3, and you can sack it. So you can sacrifice this card to add 2 red to your mana pool, and you can play this ability as an interrupt. You can also pay a red, sacrifice Tinderwall to have it deal 2 damage to target creature it blocks. That second ability is not going to happen too often. Generally, I just see this as a green card, 1 green, 0/3, and you can sack it to add 2 mana to your mana pool if you really need to. Experiment 1 is a 1/1 for a green. It has evolved, so whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it has a greater power or toughness than this creature, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. You can also remove 2 +1/+1 counters from Experiment 1 to regenerate it. And then we have a Basking Root Walla. This card was amazing when I used to play Standard. It's 1 green, 1/1, pay 1 and a green for it to get +2/+2 until end of turn. But if you are to ever discard it, it instead just comes into play. That's madness for you. Alright, now we're going to take a look at some of the 2 drops in the cube. We have another leveler. This one is Kazandu Tusk Collar. It's 1 and a green for a 1/1, but if you level it up to level 2 to 5, you can tap it to put a 3/3 green elephant creature into the battlefield. If it gets to 6+ levels, you put 2 3/3 green elephant creatures every time you tap it into play, which is quite good. I like this card a lot, actually. It's a lot of fun. It takes a little bit of work to get there, but green has tons of ramp. Teamer Charger, it's a morph. You flip it by revealing a green card in your hand, and when you do, target creature gains trample until end of turn. Otherwise, it's 1 and a green for a 3/1. That's not the worst thing in the world. We also have a Jade Mage here. It's 1 and a green for a 2/1, but it allows you to pay 2 and a green to put a 1/1 green Sapperling creature token onto the battlefield. There's a lot of different token strategies, so I thought that this might fit in somewhere maybe. There's not a lot of mana fixing in the cube, so Joiner Adept could be quite good. It's 2/1 for 2, and it lets all of your lands tap for any color. We have Voyaging Satyr. It's 1 and a green, 1/2, untap target land, so unlike Arbor Elf, this lets you untap any land. Doesn't have to be a forest, except this costs 2 as opposed to 1. We also have a Strangleroot Geist. This was a game day promo, I think. 2/1 Haste Undying for 2 green. Yeah. We We have a Highland Game. It's a 2/1 for 2, but when it dies, you gain 2 life. Wall of Roots, 0/5. This is also a mana dude. Quite a good one. It's in most cubes I've seen. 0/5, and then you can put a -0, -1 counter on Wall of Roots to add a green mana to your mana pool. We can only do that once each turn. You can't go 1 green, I'll add 5 green. Leaf Crown Dryad, probably not good enough for cube, even this cube, but I thought that I could try some of these bestow guys out and see how they do. I don't think I've seen anybody play them yet. Satyr Wayfinder, there's no real way to abuse him other than just enter the battlefield, reveal the top 4 cards, put a land into your hand, the rest into the graveyard. There's not too many ways for graveyard recursion, but there is a couple. So, I mean, we do have a Living Death and Animate Dead. Some things like that. I think that you would play this guy in that sort of deck. Heir of the Wild, just a good aggressive creature. 2/2 Death Touch for 2, and when it attacks, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Wild Mongrel, perfect with that Basking Root Walla. It's 2/2 for 1 green, and you discard a card to give it +1/+1 till end of turn. And it becomes a color of your choice till end of turn. So if somebody tries to Doomblade it, you can evade Doomblade. And the last 2 drop, another mana guy. People used to call him Steve because they'd call him STE for Secured Tribe Elder, and then put a VE at the end. I don't know why they called him Steve. 1/1, sack him, search your library for a basic land, put it into play tapped, shuffle your library, obviously. It's quite good. He's a cool looking snake shaman. Speaking of shaman, we do have a Troll Ascetic here. It's 1 2 green. It has hexproof. It's a 3/2, and you pay 1 green to regenerate him. Very hard to deal with. Another shaman. We have a shaman tribal thing going on here. Is Eternal Witness. 2/1 for 3. When it comes into play, you regrow. So you return any card from your graveyard to your hand, which is amazing. It's a really high pick in a lot of cubes. I think it's great. It's going to be good here, just as good as it is everywhere else. Boon Satyr. This is a bestow guy that I think is going to stick around in this cube for a long time. 1 2 green for 4/2 flash alone is pretty interesting. Add the fact that you could flash in a bestow to give a creature an aura that gives it +4/+2, and then when that creature dies, you still get a 4/2. Quite good. Hunting Moa is a 3/2 for 2 green, has Echo. We all know Echo at this point. When it comes into play, or it's put into the graveyard from play, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Now, just like FTK, if this goes to the graveyard from play and you control no other creatures, you have to put that +1/+1 counter on your opponent's creature. So be careful with Hunting Moa. Also have Simian Grunts, 2 green, flash, 3/4. Has Echo though. Has Echo. Tuskguard Captain. It's 2/3 for 2 green, and all creatures you control the +1/+1 counter on it have trample. So sorry, I can't pick up this card all of a sudden. Huh? Look at these combos. Combos like you've never seen them before. And it has Outlast. Neela's Disciple, 2 2 green, 3/3, and then you gain life equal to your devotion to green when it enters the battlefield. We have Ravenous Bealoth, 4/4 for 4, and then you sack a beast to gain 4 life. Something that's not a beast but could have been is the Temur Sabertooth. It is 4 mana for a 4/3. You can pay 1 green to return another creature you control to your hand. If you do, Temur Sabertooth's indestructible. This card is great at saving your team from a wrath. It's also good at reusing Eternal Witness or Hunting Moa abilities. I think that this card is going to be very good in this cube. It's going to stick around for a while, I think. We also have a Phantom Centaur. It's 2 2 green, protection from black. When it enters the battlefield, put 3 +1/+1 counters on it. If damage would be dealt to Phantom Centaur, prevent that damage and remove a +1/+1 counter from it. So one of the things you can do is if you have like an equipment or an aura that pumps its toughness, then forever, if it was dealt damage, even if it doesn't have a +1/+1 counter on it, that damage is prevented and it doesn't die. Another card that we could abuse with Temur Sabertooth is Acidic Slime. It's a 2/2 for 3 2 green. Has Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, you destroy an artifact, enchantment, or land. Stampeding Elkherd, 5/5 for 5. When it attacks, if creatures you control have a total power of 8 or greater, everybody gets trample. All of them all get trample, and you only need 3 power plus this to make that happen. You also have a Hydra Omnivore here, 8/8 for 6. Whenever it deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. We're only playing 1-on-1 in Cube, but for the cost, the power and toughness are still really good. Just by itself, it's a great ramp target. We have Sylvos, Rogue Elemental. It's 3 and 3 green for a 8/5 trample. And you pay a green to regenerate Sylvos. This would be in the deck that you would play Nelia's Disciple in. Something that's really heavy green. So yeah, you could reliably cast this and gain a lot of life off that. Our first Delve card so far, Hooting Mandrills. I think it's just a really good card. I think the Delve can get this guy out on maybe turn 3, and it's a 4/4 trample. We have a Nemesis of Mortals, 4 and 2 green, 5/5, and it costs 1 less for each creature card in your graveyard. And then for 7 and 2 green, it has Monstrosity 5, but that ability costs 1 less for each creature card in your graveyard. Very easy to get this guy to a 10/10. I know that in this limited format, I activated the Monstrosity quite often. We have a Destructor Dragon. This card probably shouldn't be in the cube, but I just wanted there to be a lot of big fat targets for green to ramp into. Like Maul Splicer, another card that's good with Tamir Sabertooth. 6 and a green, 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, you get 2/3/3 colorless Golem artifact creatures, and Golems have trample. And then we have the Sandstep Mastodon, 7 mana for a 5/5 with reach, and when it enters the battlefield, bolster 5. We have a couple more creatures here. We have a Terastodon. This card, he's playing a lot of different cubes. It's great for dealing with non-creature permanents or just destroying some of your own lands to get 3/3 elephants. Hooded Hydra is a morph that can do really big things. I don't have a Deranged Hermit in this cube, so this is going to have to do for now. Going on to non-creature spells, we have a Rancor. This Rancor was actually altered by Mr. Lubufu from the famous YouTube magic channel, Mr. Lubufu. You should check him out. He at one point sent me a bunch of altars, and now I finally have a place for a lot of these altars in the cube. I have a Giant Growth. Thought I might as well put a Giant Growth in here, signed by the artist Noah Bradley. Foil. Mutagenic Growth just got reprinted. It's kind of a fun card. Works really well with things like Monastery Swiftspear. Costs no mana. It's an instant, so it pumps it and get +2/+2. Nobody ever expects the Mutagenic Growth, so it's kind of a neat card. We also have a Rampant Growth. Rampant Growth just lets you search for a basic land, put into play tapped. Sorcery for 1 and a green. Epic Confrontation. I felt like green needed a little bit more removal, because green has a really tough time getting removal. Epic Confrontation is one of those new cards, and fighting is kind of a new mechanic still. Works really well, I think. Naturalize more ways to deal with artifacts and enchantments. We have a Harrow, more ramp, and mana fixing. Cultivate, same deal. We have Blanchard Armor, is a card that you probably don't see in a lot of cubes. A lot of people won't play it. It would see play mostly in that Sylvos, Nelia's Disciple deck, because it gives a creature +1/+1 for each force you control. It's an aura. Sudden Reclamation's another new one that I kind of just wanted to try out. I don't know how long it's going to stick around for. It's an instant for 3 and a green. When it came out, people were calling it the Green Factor Fiction. You put the top 4 cards of your library into the graveyard, then return a creature card and a land card from your graveyard to your hand. So it doesn't actually have to be one of the 4 cards that you put there. Also good in the Reanimator deck. We have Explosive Vegetation. It helps you with mana fixing. Call of the Wild is a new one that you might not know about. It's a, when I say new one, I mean old one, but new probably to a lot of you. It's a 2 and 2 green enchantment, and then you pay 2 and 2 green, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, put it into play. Otherwise, put it into your graveyard. Incremental Growth, 3 and 2 green. It's signed by the artist. Put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, then 2 +1/+1 counters on another creature, then 3 +1/+1 counters on a third creature. We also have Sapperling Burst. It's a card that was in a lot of cubes earlier on. It's kind of been getting cut in the last year or two from a lot of those cubes, but you know what? For the Noob Cube, I think it's perfectly fine. We also have See the Unwritten. It's one of the less expensive mythics from Cubetutor, 6 mana sorcery, and you reveal the top 8 cards of your library and put a creature directly into play. But if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, man, you can get 2 creatures, put them both into play. Why not? I got a GP stamped Become Immense. It's just a really sweet pump spell. We also have a Hurricane. It deals X damage to each player and each creature with flying. It's good green answer to blue and white flyers. And Kalani Garden. So this I consider a green card because you would never play it unless you were playing green. It enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you get a 0/1 plant creature, and you can tap it for a green. It just gives you a little, if you're playing some sort of control deck that you need that 0/1 to maybe block with, or just have that extra dude in play. It helps. Sometimes you don't really care if your land comes into play tapped, but you do care if when your land comes into play it gives you a creature. That is all I got for you. Check us out next time when I go over another color in the Noob Cube. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.